Hello my friends, I'm Tracy. Thanks for joining me here. Today we're going to talk about how to make these end caps for a leather cord in sterling silver. So let's get started. So for this exercise or this little project, we will need a few things. I've got a couple different widths of sterling silver tube. So the one that I'm going to use today is this one. It happens to fit the leather cord that I want to do. Now I bought these so long ago I don't remember the measurements, but if you have some, you're just going to have to measure, and most websites will give you the internal dimension as well as the external dimension of this stuff, so you can kind of measure it up with the leather cord. Also, I have this leather cord. I think it was like 3 millimeter, but I bought it so long ago that I don't remember that either. And I'm not very good at keeping track of things like that. But this cord happens to fit into there just perfectly. You just want to make sure that there can be a little bit of wiggle room, but not a whole lot. As you can see, that's about what I got right there. All right. The other thing you're going to need is some Sharpie markers, a jeweler's saw, some cutters, and some scrap sterling silver. I also have a disc cutter from Pepe Tools, which is really awesome. But if you don't have a disc cutter, you'll just have to saw it out. So the way we'll start this is, I might go a little fancy. I was practicing on here with some metal stamps, and I might make my end cap be this little sun shape right there. And I could put the wire right and solder the wire right on there. We'll see how it goes. But you can get fancy or you don't have to get fancy, but I might just use that. So the way that I do this is to just take, to see what kind of cap that I need to use, one of my disc cutter bits, and see, you want it to overlap just a little bit. And where that cuts is about where you're gonna need to, or where that hits the end of your tubing, that overlaps a little bit. I kind of like a little bit more of an overlap on that, so I'm gonna go with this one. This one is a 1/4 inch, which I think is perfect for this shape here. So cut out the disc that fits the end of the tube that you want to use. And my head is hitting the camera. That's a little bit too small, but that's okay. And a hammer. We're gonna need a hammer. I'll be right back. BRB. All right, so I'm gonna grab some Pepe Tools lube. Now, where'd my little, do you do that too? Like, I just had it in my hand. Where'd it go? All right, little lube on the end of your cutter. Sorry, I gotta give this a whack or 4. I would be doing this on my stump, but that's down on the floor, and we're up here on the bench because I'm on a video. But another one of these, just line it up in there. And there I have 2 ends for my end cap. And I kept this in the bag that it came in because I don't want rust. My cutters got rusty. I gotta clean those up, so ignore that. All right, now we can set our scrap metal aside. I also like to go a 1/4 inch long on my tubing, but you can go however long you want. I might even go just a little bit over a 1/4 inch so that I can sand it down a little bit and make sure that the end is flush and straight after I saw it. Mark that with a Sharpie, and we will need 2 of them. And the end of that wasn't sawn straight, so I will go a little bit over 1/4 of an inch. Just to right there. They can be any length that you want. And then you'll just saw that off. I'm going to pause the video because you don't really need to see that. If you're this far in your journey, you don't need to see me sawing. So I'll be back in a sec. I forgot to mention that you will also need some wire. We will need, I'm going to use 18 gauge and 20 gauge wire for this. So now we have 2 little tiny end caps, tubes, and 2 1/4 inch round discs. And that has that little design on the other side that I'm going to see if I can salvage. All right, now what we do, if you have a miter jig, I like to take a miter jig to this and make sure that they're flush and straight. But if you don't have one, you'll just have to use some sandpaper on your desk, and you can go back and forth with it on the sandpaper. But I highly suggest getting one of these little doohickeys because they also flush your bezels. So if you cut a bezel, you can get the ends perfectly straight. And I'm just gonna come in here and see if I can't get that right. I think the way to do this, because my finger is round, I put this on the front and then start to clamp this down. Now I'm holding it a little bit. If I just take a little wire in there and kind of pull it out just so that it's barely extended past the edge of that, and then clamp it down, not too tight, you'll squish it. And then I can take a file and that is flat and flush. And we'll do the second one just so in case you missed it, you can see it again. I'm going to push that down. It's hanging over the edge just a little bit. That one went right in. And that's flush. Now the other end I can do flush after I finish these off. That'll just be my finishing bit there. Now what I'll do is just come in and file off those burrs real light. It doesn't take much. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna sand it. So I love these. I get them on Amazon. They're called, if you just Google 1-inch sanding discs, and you can get a whole crap ton of them on Google for a really reasonable price. Now I need my chuck. And I'm just going to come in and sand the end of that a little bit. So, I'm going to take a little, I'm going to put 2 chips of solder on this. Let's flux that up a little bit. Only because it doesn't need 2 chips of solder, but because I can't see the inside of this, I'm going to use 2. And these are going to fly all over the place because of that big bubble of flux right there. But hopefully we can dry it off without too much trouble. And those of you that don't know, I like to color code my solder chips. I buy wire solder, flatten it out in the rolling mill, and then put Sharpie marker on it. So like red is always hard solder, medium is purple, easy is blue, and I leave extra easy just plain. That way if one flies over my area here, in a couple days I need a piece, I'll know what it is. And then the end that we flushed out with the file, that will go right on there. Just set it right on top. Oh no, they won't fly all over the place because I'm putting this tube on top. We're good, we're golden. Super easy. Time consuming, yes, but if you don't feel like waiting for them in the mail and you're in a jam, make your own. Plus it's a nice added touch. Sorry, I have to turn my oxygen concentrator on. And yeah, there we go. Oh yeah, I want to flux, whoops. I want to flux up these tubes a little bit too. There. And I use a Smith little torch, and for this, I don't use a very big flame or a very powerful flame because these are small bits and parts and I don't want it to melt. Hopefully my oxygen concentrator has been on long enough. And I like to wave it over at first because that flux will kind of bubble up and sort of look like crystallized salt before it fluxes down a little bit. So I'm just going around and heating the area around, and there I can see it start to bubble. And now I'm waving it pretty far away until that flux dries so that I don't end up, there it goes. Now it's getting like that crystal-y thing. And you'll be able to see when it's getting close because the crystals will then go away. It'll get kind of glassy. And you'll totally be able to see when that solder flows right around the seam. There it is. I will do this one. I don't know if you can see it in the video, but cut these, about 1.25 inches. I'm eyeing it up. I'm not even going to measure it. I need my cutters, but you want it to be long enough so that you can form a loop with it. In the end. And I'm going to quickly take my sanding thing and sand the ends of those off so they're nice and flat and flush as well. You see me in there? Just so that makes a good contact with your end cap. Third hand, and I want to flip these over. That's a little off center, but you know what, I don't care because this is just a tutorial video. And you see how the other end I didn't do with the flush cutter, so they sit a little off kilter. That's okay. Oh, you know what? That's gonna work out perfect because that one end I can sand off. It's fine. It'll be centered when I'm done. Hold this in your third hand. I like to get it down far enough so that when I set it on there, see, that's hovering. I want it to go. I want there to be a little bit of pressure, but not a whole lot. There. Oh, I forgot a part. I'm going to take just a little bit of solder and put it on the end of this wire. What am I looking for? I probably want hard, medium solder for this one. I'm going to take my solder chip. Put that right in the middle. And then put my wire right on top of that. Now this you want to watch because you're going to want to heat the end cap, not the wire, because the wire is thinner and it'll melt. It'll just melt. So if I heat the end cap enough, that solder then will then flow. There it goes. Then I go up and heat the wire just a little bit. Oops. It's okay. I think we can still save it. Pair of pliers. This isn't really the pliers I want, but they're hanging up far away from me right now. I'm just going to straighten that wire back out again. Back in my third hand. It is a little fiddly. It's funny, the first time I did this, it went splendidly. But sometimes things get fiddly, and that's okay. That's a little too low. There. Okay. If at first you don't succeed, try it again. Goes. Good. We'll set that aside. Do our second one. Now, where did I put that wire? Here it is. Solder right in the middle. You could melt the solder first, sweat solder it on there, but I wanted to salvage that design. So I wanted when it melted, I wanted it to flow up onto the wire. So that's another way that you could totally do this. If I was to just melt the solder onto that design, it would flow right into the design, into the metal stamp, and I'd lose it. There it is. Oh, it didn't. Again. Wouldn't you know it? It's like as soon as you're being watched by a camera. Here we go. And that all can be straightened out, and it doesn't matter because this is going to become a loop later so that you can attach your clasp onto there. All right, I'll be back. Okay, so here's our little end caps. The other thing you're going to need are some pliers, your pliers of choice, and a pair of chainmail pliers. So these are what make jump rings or jump ring pliers. I'm going to cut this down. And I really, I just eye this up. I don't do too much measuring, but I think this should make it at about 3/4 of an inch. Cutters. That should be about right. Cut this one off the same length. There we go. And you'll notice these are a little bit wonky. They're a little off center. That's totally fine. Just grab your pliers and hold them close down to the bottom and then pinch it. And that will bring this up a little bit closer to it being centered. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect because we're going to bend it into a circle. I want it a little more perfect than that though. Hold it down close to the end cap's head. And just bend it into the center. Okay, so now this is annealed and soft. We want this to be sturdy because this is what's holding our piece together. So the best way that I've found to do this is with your flex shaft. And if someone knows a better way, a different way, you can do it with a drill. I wouldn't do it with a Dremel because they just spin way too fast. But with the flex shaft, and especially if you have one of the tabletop hand speed dial things, you can go a little, you're even better off. What I want to do is close this up until it's small enough for me to get my wire in there, but you only want it in on the end. It's a little too big yet. Just do the very tip of it if you can. This might be tricky having to do it in a camera. There we go. Feels like it's not. There we go. Huh. I might be squishing it in there, but that's okay. Then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab it. Now how do I do this with my other hand? Let's see if we can't grab it. Just spinning that real slow. I'm gonna stick this in the end. I'm gonna try anyway. And then grab it. And it's going too slow to spin it. But anyway, you want to give that a little twist, and that's going to work harden the wire. You can also do this by hand. There it goes. All right, and that should be enough. And that only spun like maybe 3 times around, but because I was holding the end of this, it slowed way down. Take this out of here. So now here's the thing. If you don't have a flex shaft, this can be done by hand. So I'm going to grab it right on the end. And then just, this is probably easier actually. And then just twist. And I'm turning my wrists in opposite directions until I feel that sort of not start to get taut. There it goes. And that makes your wire really nice and strong. This works great for earring posts too. Okay, and there we have that. Now I'm just going to take this. I'm going to use it on the fattest end. 3/4 of an inch might be a little big as I look at that. I'm going to cut that down just a little bit more. And it depends what kind of loop you want to make, but you just want to bend that around. Then I'm going to come in with these needle nose pliers and put them right next to the cap and bend that back so that I can get this right in there. And I'm probably going to want to come a little bit past it so that I can pinch that down and have that nice and flush up against the other wire. Do the second one. Come in with the pliers right up against the end, bend that back, and then bend this in. And that's overlapping. I don't know if you can see that. It's, oh crap, was I even in the frame? Oh. So I realized I was out of the frame a little bit. Anyway, that's overlapping over the other side of the wire a little bit. So then what I just do is come in, give it a pinch, and that should get it right in there. Pretty close to flush, but at least it's touching. And you want it to be touching. Now we do the most trickiest part of this whole process, which really isn't even that bad, but I do want to emphasize that, oh, look what I did. Because these are so soft and so annealed. That's okay, we can fix it. It's okay, it's okay. My nephew would say, it's okay. I'm okay. There. Okay. I do want to emphasize extra easy solder for this final step. So extra easy solder, and I'm going to pick solder this. And if you haven't ever pick soldered before, I highly recommend learning it. Some smiths will tell you, nah, it's not necessary. But for little tiny jobs like this, it's a really good skill to learn. I have a junky old pick solder here, and we'll just get this ready. We're going to flex these up. Set one aside. Now, the first time I did this, I melted the whole loop off of there, the whole jump ring right off of there. Hopefully this goes smoother than that. But I'll show you how to pick solder too. So those are fluxed, the end caps. And if you're right-handed, hold the torch in your left hand. Hold the pick in your dominant hand. And I'm just gonna heat that up a little bit. Just wave it over there until I see that my flux has dried and gotten white. Okay. Now don't heat up your pick. Just come in, pull one out. I don't know if you can see those little, there's a chip right there. You probably can't see it in the video. Oh, maybe you can see it a little bit. Okay, there it is. I'm going to ball up the solder and scoop it real quick with the cold pick. And it's so tiny. But it is, I promise you, on the end of that pick. Now I'm going to come back over here. It's already heated, but I talked a lot, so it's probably not hot yet. And hopefully, see? It did it again. Because I can't do two things at once. But maybe what we'll do, oh, there it goes. Now, what I'm doing is I'm attempting to close that join. There. Now, I'm going to attempt up. Can I save it? If I save this and it's caught on video, I'm gonna go viral. I saved it. That's amazing. A thin little piece. There. Maybe that'll keep that from falling. The first time I made end caps, it just went flawlessly. And it was a super easy thing to do. And it is a super easy thing to do. I think it's just because I can't do two things at one time. But still, this isn't going badly. But I'm showing, actually, you learn from people's mistakes, so. Oop, I want to heat that up. just a little bit. Set my solder in there. Hopefully it comes off of my pick. There. And it flowed immediately. I think I want one more on there. There. That one went perfect. All right, so there you have it. End caps. Now these are just going to go in the pickle, and I even managed to salvage and hold on to that little sun shape on the top, and that'll just get a little patina. So these are going in the pickle and then in the tumbler, and maybe a little sanding and polishing, and they're done. Have a great day, everybody. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe to my channel. It really helps me out. My goal is 1,000 subscribers so that I can start make a little bit of extra income on the side. I know it's not going to be much, but as an artist with a income that ebbs and flows, I'll take it any way I can get it. Thank you. Have a good day.